My mother crossed a line I'll never forget. Before that night, I thought we had figured it out. I was 23, living back home after college to save money, and Mom had been sober for 6 months. Our house was small, tucked between others just like it, with creaking floors and walls that held our history. She worked at the diner, came home smelling like coffee and determination. The drinking had been bad for years, but she was trying, really trying this time. When she was good, she was magical, dancing in the kitchen, singing off-key, pulling me close like we'd survived a war together. I believed we'd finally turned a corner. I believed love and time could heal anything. Around spring, something shifted. Mom became a stranger wearing familiar clothes. She'd get overly affectionate in ways that felt wrong, then distant and cold. Her boundaries blurred. She'd walk around half-dressed, make comments about my body that made my skin crawl, ask invasive questions about my dating life with a strange intensity. The drinking crept back, slowly at first, then all at once. It's like she'd been swallowed by something darker. And every time I reached for the mother I knew, she slipped further away. I started staying late at work, spending weekends at friends' places. I stopped feeling safe in my own home. That night started with too much wine and her rambling about loneliness. I was in the living room when she sat too close, touched me in ways that crossed every line. Her words became inappropriate, suggestive, completely violating the mother-child boundary. What happened next is hard to put into words, not because I don't remember, but because my mind still recoils from it. She made advances that shattered my understanding of our relationship, of safety, of family. It was a blur of words and actions that didn't belong between a parent and child. I remember one thought echoing through my head. This isn't right. I pushed her away, locked myself in my room, and spent the night feeling sick and betrayed. Morning came with suffocating normalcy. She made breakfast like nothing happened. Eggs, toast, coffee. I sat across from her, numb, waiting for an apology, horror at what she'd done, acknowledgement that last night had crossed unforgivable lines. But she just asked about my plans for the day, reminded me to pick up groceries. I waited for her to say something, anything. But the silence said it all. It told me she either didn't remember or didn't care. It told me speaking up would make me the problem. So I swallowed my revulsion, pushed down the betrayal and confusion, and started planning my escape. I moved out within 2 weeks, couch surfing until I found a studio apartment I could barely afford. The distance should have brought relief, but instead I felt hollowed out. At work, I was the quiet one who never talked about family. With friends, I made excuses for why I couldn't come to gatherings that included parents. I stopped being her daughter and became someone harder, colder, a survivor processing an unthinkable betrayal. 23 felt like 40. I carried shame that wasn't mine, wondering if I'd somehow caused it, if I should have seen it coming, if speaking up would even matter. Months passed before I could even think about her without feeling sick. I blocked her number after she kept texting like everything was normal, asking why I was being dramatic and distant. The day I finally stopped responding, I stood in my tiny apartment feeling both liberated and orphaned. When I packed my last box from her house, she didn't apologize. She just said, "You'll understand when you're older." And I knew she'd rewritten history in her mind. I left my key on the counter and walked away. Freedom tasted like grief. Independence felt like losing my entire family in one night. A year later, I finally told someone. It started as an anonymous post in a support forum, fingers shaking over the keyboard at midnight. My mother violated boundaries in ways I'm still learning to process. Typing it out felt like tearing open an old wound, but for once, I wasn't bleeding alone. Comments appeared from others who'd survived parental betrayal, who reminded me I wasn't crazy, that what happened was real and wrong. Later, I told my best friend, then a therapist. Each confession made it more real and somehow less heavy. The secret stopped poisoning me from the inside. Therapy taught me words for things I'd felt but couldn't explain. Covert incest, emotional enmeshment, boundary violations. I learned my mother had untreated mental illness and addiction, that her own childhood had been marked by abuse she never processed. I realized she was broken long before that night. But her pain wasn't my responsibility to carry. Understanding didn't erase what happened, but it gave me context. A way to see her as deeply damaged rather than evil. I grieved the mother I never really had. The relationship that could never be repaired. And slowly, carefully, I started building a life that was truly mine. Forgiveness came unexpectedly, not as a grand decision, but as a quiet release. I was hiking alone one autumn afternoon when I realized I didn't hate her anymore. The anger had transformed into something softer. Pity, maybe, or acceptance. Forgiveness isn't saying it was okay. It's saying, I'm done letting it define me. I forgave her for being sick and refusing help. I forgave myself for still loving the version of her that existed before, for mourning someone who was still alive. Forgiving didn't mean reconciling or forgetting. It meant choosing peace over perpetual pain. It meant moving forward instead of staying stuck in that night. Years later, I found my way to wholeness. I built a life filled with people who respect boundaries, with love that feels safe and healthy. I still hear her voice sometimes, softer now, almost like an apology carried by the wind. Though we haven't spoken in years. And when I look back, I don't see only what she did. I see who I became despite it. Resilient, compassionate, strong, able to recognize and enforce boundaries, capable of breaking generational cycles. Pain broke me once, but healing rebuilt me, piece by piece, into someone who understands that survival isn't just about enduring. It's about transforming suffering into wisdom, shame into strength. With grace.